So in a recent video that I made about top 5 dumb things that people do when they conceal carry, I made a point that you should always carry with a round in the chamber. I got a great comment about how do I become comfortable with carrying around in the chamber, and that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to tell you why I think you should be doing that. Of course, this is in no way do I want to make anybody uncomfortable, okay? I just want to throw my ideas out there and hopefully give you guys something to think about, because being uncomfortable with a loaded gun in your waistband is something that is a common issue, and today hopefully I can help ease your mind with that, okay? First, I want to say if you love what we do here, please make sure you come over and support us on Patreon, where we're doing a lot of extra content for you guys. You guys help us choose guns over there as well, okay? $5 tier and up until July 4th, you guys are going to get a patch from us. Just a lot of extra content that I do for you guys, signed targets, all kinds of things. We revamped it months ago, and it's really paying off. A lot of people are joining, so I ask that you guys come over and support us over there. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the first thing that we should talk about is, why are you uncomfortable with carrying around in the chamber? And I think a lot of people look at negligent and accidental discharges. Some people think that the gun is just going to go off, and this is more so with people that don't really understand guns and how they work. But it's a concern that people have. And also your loved ones. You want to make sure that your loved ones are safe. Now, before I say anything, we as concealed carriers, we as gun owners have a responsibility to make sure our guns are safe, okay? I'm all about quick access. You shouldn't have to go through 100 different codes to be able to access your gun if you need it, but you need to make sure that the gun is safe, in a quick access safe, biometric safe. There's all kinds of quick options you can use to make sure the gun is locked up away from people that you love, but can be accessed quickly, okay? So that is all of our responsibility, and you should be doing that for sure. But aside from that, what about negligent and accidental discharges? Now, I read an amazing article that I'm going to leave down for you guys below, where the USCCA took hundreds of different negligent discharges, which is what I'm going to call them, because most of them are just that. They're negligent. And they found some pretty disturbing things. You know, almost a third of negligent discharges involve kids, and there's a lot of, and a lot of these cases, actually, it's not just the person that's, being negligent, but they also hurt somebody around them. So a lot of these things, when you look at it from a negligent standpoint as opposed to an accidental standpoint, you start to realize that, okay, these things don't just happen. Now, there are rarities, and I know people are going to say, well, what about the P320? That gun just goes off. It had to be a very perfect set of circumstances, but that is true. I mean, that could be an accidental discharge, but most of the time, it's somebody not locking their firearm up when they have kids in the house, not teaching people in the house how to use them, not using the rules of firearms and safety around them. You know, it's these kinds of things that happen with negligent discharges, okay? So I'm going to leave that link to the article down below. You can go over and read it. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that was said in it, but I promise you it's a good read. Take the time, look at it. It will really open your eyes to negligent discharges. And that kind of leads back to being safe with firearms. I mean, you got to think, what is the reason that we carry a firearm? It is to prepare for situations that, either most people aren't prepared for, or most people don't want to prepare for. But the whole point is to protect the ones we love and people around us, okay? So the whole idea is to make sure that you're doing that, and 99.9% of the time, your firearm is never going to be used. It's going to be something that you're hopefully carrying every single day. It's there if you need it. Otherwise, it's locked away and nobody can get to it. No unauthorized person should be able to get to that firearm. And then the point of guns just going off. So I'm also going to link a video where this guy, it was a really well done video. He took a cutaway Glock and he shows exactly how a gun works. Now, if you don't understand this, it's fine. But once you understand it, you're gonna realize that, okay, these things don't just happen, like I said. So most modern guns, you're gonna have an action, 1, 2, or 3 actions. Most of the time it's gonna be 2 or 3, where you physically have to pull the trigger back. That's gonna release a striker. So just in a striker fired gun, scenario, that striker moves like this, okay? But you have a block that sits here like this, okay? So the only way that block is going to get through is by pulling the trigger, which raises the block, which pulls the striker back, giving it enough force to hit the primer and allow the bullet to go off. So when you think about it like that, if I load my gun, okay, and I can bang on the side, and I've done this in holster videos, make sure you get a good holster, okay? You guys know we love holster, but make sure you get a good holster. That is absolutely crucial to concealed carry, okay? Something comfortable, simple, and something that's going to be safe for you, all right? But you put it in a holster, and I've shown this with holster. You can bang on the side of the thing. It's not going to happen. You have to have all 3 of these actions, trigger going back, striker block, firing pin block going up, and then enough force for the firing pin to go back and slam forward in the back of the primer. These things don't just happen. Guns don't just go off, 99% of the time. Guns are not just going to go off. Now, there can be maybe a drop safe issue or things like that, like I mentioned, but there has to be these actions and reactions for a firearm to go off. So once you see this, once you really see it in action, all these things should really just make you more comfortable knowing that you do have a loaded gun on your hip. Cops carry loaded firearms every single day, and most modern firearms are designed to be carried with a round in the chamber. So besides internal safeties, you also have manual safeties, which I don't recommend, especially on carry guns, because it's one more step that you have to go through. And one thing that you also should probably do is come up with a process. So what I do is I will take my firearm, I'll load around in the chamber, I will holster the firearm, and what's cool about the holster is I can release the magazine, I can top off the rounds, and I can put it back in there, okay? So there is a split second where the gun is out of the holster. If you're really sketchy about this when you first try it, do it like this. Load around in the chamber, holster the gun, booger finger off of the trigger, okay, because that's what causes them to go off. Holster the gun, top it off, put your magazine in there. So just literally for a second or two, the gun's going to be out of the holster while you get it loaded up. So make yourself do like a little process every single day. Make sure you load it like that. When you get home, if you want to keep the gun loaded, well, then that's up to you. Just make sure that it's in a safe where nobody can get to it, all right? Or if you feel better unloading it when you get home, do that as well. Unload it, take the round out of the chamber, put it back in a holster, put it in a safe, and make sure that it's away from the people that you love. Because the whole reason, again, why we carry firearms is to protect those people, not to hurt them and not to put them in a situation that could hurt them. Now, hopefully up to this point, or, even after the video, once you get comfortable with the idea that the gun's just not going to go off, these things don't just happen, negligent discharges, unfortunately, are on gun owners most of the time, and all of these things I just mentioned, you may be asking yourself, well, why? I mean, I can pull the gun out, I can rack the slide. If I ever need it, it's quick enough. And that's true. It takes you about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds for a competent shooter to unholster and draw a firearm. The problem is that most of the time in these self-defense types of engagements, they're very quick. Things happen in a flash. I was reading something about the Aurora movie shooting, and people don't register gunshots when they're hearing actual gunshots. Even gun owners don't. We wouldn't think gunshot automatically, especially if you're at a movies. You may think that, well, it's special effects or it's whatever. Our brains aren't wired to think gunshot in a public place. They're just not. I mean, there are some people that are trained for this kind of stuff, but most of us are just regular citizens. We go to the range, we hear gunshots, but they're muffled. It's a different kind of thing in a public setting. The whole point of what I'm trying to make is that you need to be ready, because seconds, every little half a millisecond counts in these situations, okay? And one of the biggest reasons that I'm a proponent of carrying with a round in the chamber is racking the slide and feeding that first round. I'll tell you, I had an M&P 9 compact. When I first got, this was my first gun, I bought hollow points for it. This gun would not chamber hollow points at all, okay? And it was a good brand of hollow points. I mean, it seemed like it was very popular. A lot of people used them, but I had to switch up those hollow points. And fortunately, I tested it, before I ever even shot a round off. I mean, it just would not chamber. When you go to chamber a round, to me, in our experience, it seems like that's going to be, at the point, if something's going to fail, that's going to be one of the biggest times, one of the most crucial times where your gun is going to jam. Failure to feed or anything like that. Maybe the hollow points you're running, if you haven't tested them extensively. There's all kinds of scenarios that can happen. And again, the point of us carrying is to be prepared for these situations. You can't be prepared if you have a malfunctioning gun. So that's the whole nitty gritty of it. I mean, we just want to be ready for these things. These seconds count. Most of the time, they're close encounters. There's going to be a lot of disorientation, a lot of confusion. These are things that you don't want to have to deal with. You don't, hopefully, God forbid, want to ever be in this situation anyways, but then you put malfunctions on top of that. You're having to worry about loading around in the chamber. You want that gun ready to go. And as long as you're safe, I believe that carrying with a round in the chamber is the way to go. If you disagree with me completely, that's totally fine. Make sure you leave me a comment down below. If you agree with what I'm saying, again, leave me a comment. Tell me, any personal stories that you have with carrying around in the chamber or how you became comfortable with doing that. Again, I have these links for you down below so you can go over and check out some of these awesome resources that I found. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you very soon. And as always, hold them down.